Hello, and welcome to part one of my night table video series. Over the next few videos, I want to share aspects of this project that are interesting and perhaps less obvious from just seeing a photo of the finished product. So let's start with what happens before any cuts are even made. The first major thing now that I need to work on is understanding the client requirements. Now this is not, simply the dimensions of the product, the type of wood or the finish. I need to know all those. What I'm interested in is how is the product going to be used? How's the client going to use it? Because sometimes that makes it necessary to change the design just a little bit so it actually works best for the client. Now, for this project, I had a picture from the client of what she's interested in. Very helpful to have, and the internet's got lots of opportunities for that. So when I see this, the first thing I'm thinking about has to do with the drawers. And there's really two issues with that. First, I want to understand how I'm going to mount them, because there's multiple ways of mounting drawers. The simple way is just to put a couple supports in the sides. You can see in the picture these kind of wood runners, and the drawer just slides back and forth on top of those. Very simple. The catch: the drawer will of course easily pull right out. The other option is to use drawer slides, and you can see in this picture what that looks like. So now you have a piece that attaches to the drawer and to the cabinet, and the drawer will fully extend without falling out. The catch here is money. These can be $15 or more per drawer. So if you're making a chest, or in this case 2 tables with 2 drawers, it kind of adds up. What was interesting was the client said actually the first option, just simple runners, is fine because she wants to be able to pull them out to put stuff into them on a regular basis. So that's great. By understanding how it was going to be used, we agreed upon a key design element. The second thing with the drawers is about the number of them. In the picture you can see there's 2 drawers and then an empty space. Well, that's fine, looks nice. But what struck me was, do we need a 3rd drawer? Part of my rationale for thinking along that line is we have a cat. And cats like to get up on tables, night tables for example, usually at 3 in the morning, and see what stuff they can move around or toss to the floor. Of course, I wake up at 3 a.m., look down at cats looking up innocently like, oh, I'm glad you're up. How lovely. And an open space to me seemed like an invitation for, feline hijinks. I discussed with the client, who in this case said, you know what, it's not a concern. I like the look of it, we'll go with that. And in fact, that led to a clarification that she wanted to have her cell phone there and would like to be able to charge it. So I was able to update the design and say, well, we'll put a hole in the back for your cord so you can charge it. And so by understanding how the client's going to use the product, it helps arrive at the right design and allows me to better plan how I'm going to make it. The second part of my overall process is now coming up with an estimate of what it's going to cost. And I have to consider both materials and construction process. For the materials, now I have an idea of the basic design, the dimensions, so how much wood I need, the types of wood I need. In this case, for example, I'm using pine for the bulk of the project, but plywood for the drawers. So I usually sketch out, okay, how many pieces, of what dimension do I need, and that sometimes takes some trial and error, right? May have to start again a couple times, but it's worth it because in the end I can best utilize the material. I'm trying to minimize the waste of any of the materials that I have. For example, I know in this case I'm using lumber, which comes in 8-foot lengths. So I'm going to try and put as many pieces on that 8-foot board as I can. And what's the optimum arrangement, right? So if I put 4 side pieces, that's great, but I'll have this much waste. But I'll, if I put 3 sides and something else, then I get a little less waste. So I'm looking at that. But I also have to consider the process, the efficiency of my build process. So for example, talking about this board again, if I have all the sides on one board, when I go to cut it, it's the same size cut 3 or 4 times in a row. That's very efficient. If I have multiple size pieces, I've got to keep track of what I'm cutting, or else I'll be cutting the top, for example, too short. So I've got to balance, waste optimization, reduction and efficiency. Once I've got my mind wrapped around that, I can then make a list of all the tasks that I need to finish the project. Right? Something like this, I need a pretty good plan, like more than a concept. And making a list of tasks allowed me to figure out how long it's going to take. Right? So then I can take my kind of labor effort, the materials that I need, put that into a spreadsheet with the current cost to buy those materials, and come up with an estimate. I can give that to the client. We could negotiate perhaps if it's too much, then we could maybe say, well, let's take this out or do something different. And that's perfect. I want the product to do what the client needs. And in the end, I'm looking for a client agreement on the design and the cost. So now I can say that I have a plan and the client's approval to start. In part 2 of the series, I'll actually start cutting, gluing, and making mistakes. So check out that video for more woodworking in progress.